Thank you so much, everyone. So a lot of people have been talking about the petroleum industry bill. So you heard what the Minister of State for Petroleum said today. It is not yet time to remove subsidy. That's what he said. What does that mean? In practical terms, that law, how will it affect you as a citizen? So we'll break it down more for you to understand. So I have two people who basically have a lot of experience in this industry and will be sharing their thoughts. The Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, Mr. Orji Ogbonaya, and with him is the National Chairman of the Action Democratic Party, a former staff of PPMC of the NNPC of those times. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Let me perhaps begin with Mr. Yaba Gisani. I guess one of those times we've discussed this matter. This PIB is long coming. For someone who have also worked in that industry, what does this law mean for an average Nigerian? And for you as a politician, how do you assess the eventual assent of the bill?
Well, Sean, I first of all would like to congratulate Mr. President, because this is the bill that has been in the workings for over 20 years now, and for him to have the opportunity of putting it into to become an act, I think it's an achievement, a landmark achievement for that matter. If you look at what has been happening until now under this administration, I think this is something that some of us have been, looking forward to. Having said that, the bill itself, meaning the piece of legislation that has been passed by National Assembly and accepted by Mr. President, it's an economic, program really for this country to redirect the affairs of this country. Because if you look at the contribution of oil sector in our economy, it contributes nothing less than 90% of our foreign exchange earning. It contributes up to 65% of our total revenue, into this economy. And although it contributes less than 10%, to the GDP, so that tells you that a lot needs to be done in terms of ensuring that Nigeria benefits from this God-given endowment, which is the oil and gas sector. Having said that, the bill itself has a lot of what I would call ambitious programs when you look at it in the context of Nigeria. Nigeria, yes, you have laws, you have regulatory agencies, but the question is the enforcement of those laws, the implementation of the act itself. That is where the problem is, because look at what has been happening. It is not as if we didn't have a regulatory agency in the oil and gas sector with all these things happening. You have DPR, you have even the agencies that are supposed to supervise the financial aspect of the industry, like Cathedral of Federation's office. You have Revenue and Fiscal Allocation Commission. You have so many agencies that are supposed to supervise, monitor, control, and ensure that the monies that are accrued to this country accrue to it. But what do you have? What you have is a regime of corruption, which even international communities are calling, that we should please do something about this, because it's an embarrassment to the country and to the international community. The point I'm trying to make is that I'm glad that the Executive Secretary of NIT is here. In an industry like this, if you cannot measure, how do you monitor and control? This is an industry that today, the material infrastructure in this industry are still a lot substandard. So meaning that you cannot really rely on information coming from that industry. PIB, yes, all the governance aspect, legal aspect, the accountability aspect that has been put, in a glossy manner in the PIB is fine. But I'm saying, what has DPR been doing? Not, ensuring that we have working meters in the industry so that we can begin to know how much we are producing and how much we are selling and how much is coming into our coffers. What has all these agencies been doing? It isn't that we don't have regulatory agencies. Coming with new agencies is like, the more, things change, the more they remain the same, because it is still Nigerians that are going to manage these regulatory agencies. Yes, I'm glad we have NNPCL that may come on board. And even that is still a lot to be done, because how do you ensure that they say 6 months down the line, we may have NNPCL incorporated. But the people to run that industry, the NMPs that may emerge, is also something that's very important because government has a lot to do. You know, government will be putting so much, it will have influence on what is going to happen from before the company start, operating. So much is still there because it is Nigeria, because the way we do things, we don't have respect for our laws. We don't like this country. We do things as if this country does not matter at all. And especially in the oil and gas sector, if you know the kind of losses we have been coming out of losses the industry, that's why I said I'm glad Night is here. They've been reporting billions of dollars losses every day. And this has to do with the process aspect of the industry, which is what the regulatory agencies, the upstream agency, the downstream and midstream regulatory agencies are going to help us to solve. Where are we going to get people to do it? It's still Nigerians. The people you have in DPR will very soon transform to maybe upstream or downstream regulatory agencies. They are the same Nigerians. We are still going to lose the billions we are going to lose because nothing has been done. The government has not come, in a way that will convince you that if somebody steals money, he will be punished. And if that doesn't happen, Nigerians will continue to loot, this economy, and then we will end up with banditry. We will end up with people that the young people that are coming out of universities without jobs. We'll end up with people stealing our oil, colluding with our people, giving them pittance, like this national oil company to talk about. They take advantage of the loopholes we have there. So PIB is a good legislation. Implementation is the problem. And until the government wakes up and begin to do what governments all over the world do, we will still be where we are. In fact, maybe we'll be worse off because I could listen to what the governor of Imo State was saying, that, we are there now, everything is not okay, please. It is the Nigerians that are going to run that PIB. And that is where the problem lies.
All right. So, those problems are emerging one after the other. And it's good that you mentioned the issue of what 90. And the reason why we invited Dr. Ojo Ogbonaya Oji tonight, give us a sense, because as of 2019.org, 90 was reporting that over $2 billion is being lost to oil theft. Would there be a game change with this new law?
Well, thank you very much, Sean, for having me. And I would like also to join all other speakers that have given compliments to the president for bringing this very long journey to a very successful end. The reason why Nigeria joined the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative in 2003, began implementation in 2004, and supported implementation, became the first country in the world to support implementation with a specific law, in 2007, was because of this same concern, the various concerns that this law is now in place to address. The issue of stealing of our crude, the issue of poor accountability of revenue generated from oil, gas, and mining, the issue of inadequate account of crude production, the issue of governance, the fiscal regime that governs the sector, who gets what and how. Like other previous speakers have said, 90's report in 1999 to 2004 was the first report ever in the sector, independent report in the sector, that discovered, that threw up this advocacy that there was no law governing the sector except the Petroleum Act of 1969. And as between 2004 till date, the struggle to get this bill passed into law has been on. It has passed through all the regimes before President Muhammad Buhari came to pass. So when you give credit to the president, please, he should be allowed to take that credit, because under him, an executive bill was introduced, followed to the letter, a very constructive engagement with the National Assembly, with the companies, with the civil society, with the host communities, took place. And at the end of it all, we now have a law. To answer your question specifically, every report 90 has highlighted has bordered on the lapses in the processes and that underpin transactions in the sector. Has also gone, built around the inadequacy of the financial regime that governs the sector. Has also been on the response that we get from the government, from the companies, from the civil society that ought to collaborate in fashioning out a proper governance structure for the sector. We are very glad and very happy that at the end of the day, we have got this law in place. The law is a creation of human beings. We do not expect it to be perfect. But I can assure you that for us in the EITI, in 90, and the global EITI made up of 55 member countries, this is one piece of news that has attracted very wide commendations around the world.
Let me follow up on that, and specifically on what the Minister of State said today. Part of Nigeria's report in the past have talked about subsidies and whether or not Nigeria should continue, and some of the shortcomings, the loopholes in the payment of subsidies. Is it healthy for Nigeria to continue based on the report and some of the outcome of your findings in the past?
Well, truth is always bitter, but it's also very, very hard to bear sometimes. But truth must also be told. I'm not speaking my mind, I'm speaking from position of information and data available to us in Haiti. As at our 2013 report, Nigeria has spent over 4.13 trillion naira on subsidy. And that was as at 2013 report. Now we are in 2021. I can also give you the figure if you insist. But it's not a figure that, that inspires a nation that wants to develop and catch with the developed world.
I insist that you give us that figure
issue,
so that we can heal. Sometimes it's good to take the pain, then you heal. Give us a figure and let's see if we can chew it.
It's an issue of data, and for us in 90, our data is usually correct and accurate. I've given you the one for 2013. If you had asked me, you didn't send any question in advance, I would have provided you the data. It's there in our system. We can give you what Nigeria has spent in terms of fuel importation. So for us in 90, we believe that it should be an argument for all Nigerians. Do we continue that way? Or do we find any other alternative? And there are other options. And I believe that this law will provide appropriate response at the appropriate time on how Nigeria progresses with the issue of subsidy. Whether to continue, whether the law has that provision. As I speak to you, I am yet to see exact clean copy of what Mr. President signed into law. And I will not want to speak on speculation. The bill that was provided, that we'll all looked at, believes that it will provide a very robust fiscal framework that will lay to rest once and for all the debate about subsidy. And I think we have got to that point. Let's wait and see exactly widely what Mr. President has signed into law.
It's heart-wrenching, some of the figures that come out of payment of subsidy. In 2015, your report says that 4.5 trillion was spent on subsidy. In a single year, in 2018, it was said that NATO report showed that over 700 billion naira was spent on subsidy. Well, I'll come to you in a short while. Let me go to Alhaji Abaji Sani. And part of what the Minister of State said today is also what is going to happen to the NNPC. And he said that will not happen until the next 6 months. If you may, you can touch on the issue of a subsidy. But for someone who had worked in the NNPC, what the law provides now, is it the workable, is it the right path to go? And if it is, how carefully should we go?
Well, I think like we all know, the jury is still out on this PIB thing because, like I said, implementation is the most important aspect of the law. You can have a law. If you don't implement it well, it's as good as not having a law. Yes, the subsidy issue is a political issue. But beyond that, Seun, you see, if you go into our refineries, you go to our jetties, you go to even the oil, the upstream sector itself, believe you me, you will not find metering facilities that will guarantee you anything. Why am I so emphatic about this metering thing? You know, if you can't measure, you can't monitor, you can't control, you will not know what you are producing. That's the regime we have in this country today. We don't even know where to take our production. There's no regulation, there's no law, and even PIB, I don't know whether there's anything about the policy on where to measure production. You know, you have your wellheads, you have the gathering fields, you have the terminals. The regime today, Seun, is like a case of you having a farm in perhaps maybe in Nasarawa or in Kaduna. You have a factory here, and they say don't bother about what is coming from your farm. Just let's talk about what comes to your factory. You know, you can see how silly that is. You can see how much we are being taken for a ride. You know, what we produce, what we lose is of no consequence to the oil companies, because nobody talks about how you account for production. Everybody, you know, Naiti here can tell you, because I've worked, you know, for Naiti on metering study. I've worked for them in the fiscal, in the financial audit too. And we gathered that DPR, the figures DPR normally comes up with, the figures that the audit people comes up with, the figures that oil companies comes, they don't never match, meaning that we don't know as we are today. So PIB cannot be anything that is worth the paper printed on unless the issue of governance in terms of metering, in terms of linking these institutions is addressed. And unless it is addressed, we are still going to be in the same mess that we are in today, where our economy is being, you know, is being run in a way that Nigerians do not know what is happening. Because oil and gas sector is very important to this economy. So issue of subsidy, why am I bringing metering? Go to the jetties where they are bringing this subsidy, this fuel that they say we're importing. You know, there are no meters at the jetties. So how do we even know when they say they've spent trillions of naira on who gives you the data? Who even monitors, you know, the ships that they're bringing? Who knows whether you bring an empty ship and then go around and then submit a bill and then invoice and you are paid because you don't have meters at the jetties? It's as good as that. And the other issue is this. This PIB, care is not taken, will even violate the principle of civil service, which says that no agency of the government can start a transaction and end it without another agency coming to it. What I saw in that PIB before it was submitted to Mr. President is against that principle, because it is a PIB that has ousted other agencies that are supposed to play the role of accountability. I know of an agency under Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment, Waste and Measures, which today PIB attempted to use up their functions so that nobody is going to know what is. And then one of the fundamental objectives of PIB is accountability and transparency. How do you get accountability and transparency if you put everything in charge, you know, of one agency of the government? They are the ones producing. They are the ones, you know, checking. They are the ones exporting. They don't want any agency to come and know what is happening in the industry.
I want to
So the issue of subsidy that government said politically that they are not going to address, they should technically address the issue of how we account for what is coming into this country as subsidy. You know, we shouldn't be taking for that
let me
for too
get
long,
you, because
you know,
I'm going to ask Dr. Oji the same question, but quickly tell me, in 6 months, the minister has said that NNPC will become a limited liability company. How does that sound to you?
Is that my question?
Yes, I wanted you to answer it quickly before I allow Dr. Oji to respond quickly also to the same question.
What it means is that Nigerians will have opportunity of buying equity shares in NNPCL that may come on board. But the issue is who is going to run the company that will eventually emerge. And then, because if we are going to be running those entities where government has, you know, stake, the way we are running some of the agencies we have today, believe me, it will be back to square one. And it will be unfortunate that we lose this opportunity of ensuring that we get our economy right. Because oil and gas, as far as the economy of Nigeria is concerned today, is very important. So NNPCL is a step in the right direction.
All right. Great.
Well,
So let me allow Dr. Orji, because
Dr.
Orji, you know, because so I want to, the context at which I want you to tackle this, because your organization talks about transparency, accountability. You've always been asking for this. Well, NNPC going as a limited liability company give us that.
Well, thank you very much, Shehu. And let me quickly, with due respect, correct some impressions that my colleague Alhaji Sani has. Alhaji Sani, at some point, had actually been part of our process before he joined politics. Before, at that time, he worked with us on metering. But to be honest with you, before even this PIB, a lot of water has passed under the bridge in terms of reforms in the extractive industry. As I speak to you, the DPR has a very robust mechanism for metering technology. When I took over this job, when I was given the opportunity to head NAITI in February, one of the first things I did was to keep myself well informed of where we are in terms of remediation. What I call remediation is trying to implement findings and recommendations contained in NAITI audit report. I am aware that we had a joint committee on that with the NNPC, and I knew exactly where we stopped. But for the DPR, I went to Lagos to find out where we are on the issue of metering. And Shehu, this is verifiable. DPR has done a lot in terms of metering infrastructure. They have a data center that is world class. I went there, I saw it, and I was among those who raised the earlier alarm. But after visiting the center, which was commissioned by the president, I think it was a virtual commissioning ceremony he did. It's new. It's not yet known to many Nigerians. A lot of water has passed under the bridge in that area. In terms of other reforms, there have been a lot of massive reforms in the sector. And that's why this law is so timely, because it's going to provide very robust legal framework for some of these reforms to stand. To answer your question specifically, it has also been NAITI's report. NAITI's report was the one that threw up the idea that Nigeria as a country needs a petroleum industry law. That's when the job started. And this law is as old as NAITI, because it began in 2004. So we're happy it has ended this way, and we're glad that we're part of it from the beginning. So the law is so clear on fiscal framework, how the funding arrangements in the sector will be governed. It's clear. It provides governance procedure. It provides the processes. So most of the concerns that Alhaji Sani has are well addressed by the law. But you know the difference between developed and developing nations is the implementation of the law, like he has said. So I share his concern. But that's where NAITI and other agencies, the civil society, the companies themselves, and government, were going to work together. Because this law is about improving the sector, and not just improving the sector, allow inflow of investment that will create jobs, grow the economy, provide jobs, and grow our revenue, improve government take, and provide enabling environment for companies to operate. Because without the companies, there will be no industry. So it's a moving situation. For the NNPC, it was our law that said NNPC should be unbundled. What we meant by unbundling NNPC, we felt that NNPC had more than it could chew. It was into everything. But this law was specific. NNPC will be incorporated as a limited liability company. Now, the model I have in mind, and we in NAITI look at, is the model that we have in NLNG, Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas. NLNG has been run in that company as a very good company. And we are very well aware that NLNG has done well. By this, the law provides for a governing board of NNPC that will be confirmed by the Senate. And that governing board we now make it possible for transparency and account, because they will be run by well-selected Nigerians. These are assumptions, and we believe that if we follow this law, the sector will not be the same.
I must sincerely thank both of you. Dr. Orji Ogbonaya Orji, the Executive Secretary of NAITI, and the national chairman of the ADP, Alhaji Yabaji Sani. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been a robust and very interesting conversation tonight. I appreciate it. Well, that's our show for today. Many thanks, everyone, for watching. I'm Shion Kimale. Bye for now.